The paper bag was still warm against my wrist. I could smell the ginger from her tea before I'd even stepped off the elevator. It was something I did sometimes. Drop by unannounced when I knew she was staying late. A small surprise, nothing dramatic. Just proof that someone was thinking of her while she was drowning in campaign reports and mock-ups. I'd even remembered the extra chili oil she liked on her dumplings. I texted her from the lobby. "On my way up. Hope you're hungry." The security guard waved me through. The floor was quiet, just the low hum of electronics and the occasional creak of the HVAC. Her office was down the hall, but the lights were off. I figured she might be in the conference room, or with her team. I rounded the corner toward her boss's office, where soft yellow light spilled onto the carpet. The door was cracked open. I saw them before I heard anything. Her legs dangled off the edge of his desk, one heel kicked halfway off. His hand was on her waist. Her fingers were tangled in his shirt collar. They were kissing, deep, slow, like the world outside that room didn't exist, like nothing else mattered. And for them, maybe it didn't. But for me, the moment cracked something in half. I didn't gasp. I didn't drop the food. I didn't say her name. I just stood there. 6 seconds. That's how long it took for every shared memory, every late night, every inside joke, every whispered promise to disintegrate. Then I turned around. Before the elevator even reached the ground floor, I'd opened my banking app, froze the shared cards, changed the passwords. And if you've made it this far into the story, take a second to like the video and subscribe. I know 97% of people watch these without clicking, but this really helps our team keep creating stories that cut this deep. By the time she checked her phone, probably while wiping lipstick off her mouth, her Uber app had already declined her ride home. I hope she enjoyed the walk. I didn't cry. I didn't scream, I just drove. The takeout stayed on the passenger seat untouched. I didn't want it anymore. I didn't want anything that reminded me of her, of us. When I got home, the house was still warm with the smell of the candles she always forgot to blow out. I walked through each room once, no ceremony, no goodbyes, just a mental inventory of everything I no longer needed to care about. Then I opened the hall closet, pulled out my emergency bag, the duffel I hadn't touched since college, and began. 2 changes of clothes, passport, laptop, hard drive, the old envelope marked prenup, final signed copy. It wasn't an escape. It was an extraction. She would wake up in a world she no longer recognized. But I was wide awake now. I didn't play music on the drive home, didn't call anyone, didn't even roll the windows down, just kept my hands at 10 and 2, eyes fixed ahead, ignoring the buzzing of her incoming messages. The car's navigation voice announced each turn like I was a stranger in my own city. In a way, I was. The bag I kept for emergencies was in the hallway closet behind a winter coat I hadn't worn in 2 years. Black canvas, no logos. I tossed in 2 sets of clothes, my travel kit, my laptop, the backup SSD drive, and the printed copy of the prenup she insisted we keep, just in case. I didn't cry. I didn't hesitate. This wasn't heartbreak. It was a checklist. Upstairs, the framed photos came down from the hallway wall one by one. I didn't take them. I just removed them, left the hooks, left the nails, just cleared the space like someone prepping for demolition. In the bedroom, I reached under her nightstand and pulled out the spare key to the Tesla, popped the glove box, disabled the mobile access from her phone. Then I stood in the doorway and looked at the house like a stranger might. White kitchen, slate countertops, airy layout we once debated for weeks. I remembered how proud she was when we installed the smart locks, synced the whole system to her phone. I opened the app, selected Remove Device Access, then changed the master PIN. The lights blinked once, then again. Done. Downstairs, I shut off the joint account with 3 taps. The screen asked if I wanted to notify the other user. I clicked no, then opened the shared card list, canceled every one of them. Uber, Spotify, DoorDash, gym membership, her favorite wine subscription, all gone. It took under 15 minutes. Somewhere in the distance, a siren wailed through the night, the kind of sound that usually makes you pause, wonder who's hurting, if they're close. But all I felt was air, a deep, detached calm that spread across my chest like armor. I sat down at the dining room table, opened my laptop, and found the last email thread with our attorney. The subject line was still there. Prenup, final executed copy. I didn't even need to draft a new message. Just clicked forward to type 1 sentence and hit send. Activating Section 4C. Proceed accordingly. No exclamation, no emojis, just legal clarity. Before I walked out, I stood in front of the living room mirror and stared at myself. Same eyes, same breath, but something in the silence had changed. This wasn't retreat, it was ignition. I left the porch light on, not for her, for the last version of me who believed this house was home. Then I got in the car, pulled out of the driveway, and didn't look back once. The first call lit up my screen at 12:07 a.m. No ringtone, just a silent buzz against the table in my Denver Airbnb. I watched it vibrate once, then settle back into stillness. Her name stared back at me. No photo anymore. Just the blank outline every contact reverts to after deletion. Then came the text. The tone shifted fast. Where are you? Can we talk, please? This isn't what it looks like, I swear. You're overreacting. I didn't know you were coming. Call me. Please. I muted the thread, not because I was angry. Anger requires engagement. This was different. What she was experiencing wasn't rage or heartbreak. It was confusion. She had braced for a storm, a slammed door, a crying fit, maybe even a fight where she got to rewrite the narrative halfway through. What she got instead was absence. By 6:42 a.m., she was locked out of the house. Her phone vibrated as she tried to access the smart lock. Denied. She opened the app. Error message. She reset the app. Still nothing. Tried the garage keypad. The code had changed. At 7:12 a.m., she reached for her purse to order a ride to work. The Uber app rejected her linked card. Twice, the same one she used for her business commutes. Then her phone buzzed again. This time, a message from her company's fleet manager. Vehicle access suspended. Please contact administrator. The corporate lease had been in my name. Renewal cycle triggered a week ago. I'd opted not to renew. She still had a key to the gym, or so she thought. The front desk stopped her before she made it past the gates. Sorry, miss. Your membership isn't active. She stared, confused. But I've been coming here for years. The receptionist smiled, sympathetic but firm. Yes, but the account was under a family plan. It's been closed. She tried to reach me through work next. Called the office line. No answer. Emailed my assistant. Auto reply. Effective immediately, Ms. Morgan James is on approved leave of absence, duration undisclosed. I hadn't spoken a word, not to her, not to anyone she still had access to. It wasn't silence out of cruelty, it was silence as boundary. When you hand someone a match, they assume the power lies in fire. They never noticed the room already soaked in fuel. She kept trying. By that afternoon, she'd texted my sister, my college roommate, even Tom, our old neighbor who once helped us fix a fence post. Nobody replied, not because I asked them to stay silent, but because they already knew the difference between drama and departure. What happened in that office wasn't a mistake, it was a message. And now she was alone with the echo. That night, I sat on the balcony of my temporary place, watching the city lights flicker below. In the distance, a train rumbled across the rails like a quiet pulse. I sipped the same ginger tea I used to bring her, only now it tasted different, cleaner. She hadn't just lost me, she'd lost the map back to where I'd been, and no amount of calls could redraw that path, not anymore. A week later, I was brushing snow off the balcony railing of a 6th-floor walk-up in Denver. The air had that clean, sharp edge mountain cities wear in winter. Cold enough to sting your lungs, clear enough to keep you honest. I had a new number. A rental car under the LLC name. My groceries delivered to a pickup locker 2 blocks away. No digital footprint, no home address connected to anything joint. It was the kind of silence people mistake for retreat, but it wasn't. It was rebuilding. The apartment wasn't glamorous. Worn floors, radiator heat, and a view of a parking garage. But it had what I needed. Solitude, a reliable Wi-Fi signal, and a door only I had the key to. It took 2 days to set up the new company, Eastwell Strategies, a name I'd scribbled on napkins during arguments we used to pretend weren't about ambition. She always said my ideas were just theories, that I liked to dream too far past what was practical. So I stopped telling her the ideas. Turns out they were more than theories. Tom from college had handled the lease. No interrogation, no pity, just Unit 6B's open, heat works, nobody'll bother you. He slipped me the keys in a coffee shop, slid them across the table like we were trading poker chips, and never asked about the bags under my eyes. I hadn't checked social media in days. No point. But habit pulled me back in. LinkedIn. The page refreshed. There it was, her boss standing on stage at some coastal gala, gripping an award I'd once heard her mock as meaningless fluff. Except now, she was in the background of the photo, left side, hair curled, same black dress from our anniversary dinner 2 years ago, no ring on her hand. The caption read, "Mentor, Visionary, Partner." I stared at the word partner, let it settle in my chest like ash. Not employee, not director, not even colleague, just partner. She'd rewritten the script so fast it almost impressed me, as if the desk kiss never happened, as if I'd never walked in with tea and dumplings like a fool, as if the last 6 years were just an inconvenient draft in a story she could revise at will. But here's the thing about reinvention. If it's real, it doesn't need erasure. And if it needs erasure, it's built on fiction. She was writing a new chapter. I was already publishing a different book. I didn't comment, didn't screenshot, just closed the tab and sipped my coffee. Let her play out whatever theater she needed to survive the fallout. Meanwhile, I was building something with real weight, contracts, filings, quiet capital, not likes. That night, I walked 3 blocks in the snow to a small late-night diner. Ordered soup, no phone on the table, no one to text, just the soft clink of dishes and the low hum of someone else's radio in the kitchen. And for the first time in months, I didn't feel watched, or measured, or filtered through someone else's ambition. She had the spotlight now, but I had something better. Freedom, and a plan I didn't need permission to execute. It came in at 9:14 a.m. sharp. Subject line, Asset Division, Request for Preliminary Discussion. Her lawyer's name was familiar. Boutique firm in the city, all gold-plated branding and smug bios, the kind of place that charged hourly for walking to the printer. My attorney, Kenneth, forwarded it to me without commentary, but I already knew what it would say. Dear Mr. Alden, on behalf of my client, Ms. Brennan, we request to initiate a civil discussion around division of shared assets and spousal consideration. Please advise on a mutually agreeable time to review current holdings. She thought this was the point where we'd sit down at opposite ends of a polished table, her side full of demands, mine full of regret. Maybe she expected me to fold a little, to offer her something for old time's sake, or because she was willing to move forward amicably. But I wasn't in the mood for fiction. Kenneth replied with a single line. As per Section 4C of the prenuptial agreement, infidelity voids all postmarital claims. No greeting, no closing, no softening language. He attached 2 things. 1, a copy of the executed prenup countersigned and notarized, dated 4 months before the wedding. The clause was clear, in bold, Section 4C, in the event either party engages in a verified extramarital affair during the legal duration of the marriage, the offending party forfeits all rights to asset division, spousal support, and shared holdings acquired post-union. 2, a screenshot. Her, sitting on the desk, lips on his, timestamp in the upper corner, pulled from the very same building's internal security feed. Unblurred, high resolution, unmistakable. I never planned to use it. I'd filed the request for footage the day after I left. Just in case, the office manager didn't ask questions, probably assumed I was tracking something work-related. I never corrected him, just paid the retrieval fee and waited. Now it sat in a PDF, numbered and archived. Admissible. Precise. Kenneth BCC'd me on the reply. I stared at the screen for a while, imagining her reaction. The way she'd lean over her attorney's shoulder, eyes scanning, heart thudding faster when she saw the photo. The timestamp would hit first, then the realization, then the language in 4C she'd never bothered to read, because she never believed consequences applied to her. She believed in stories, in emotional appeals, in rewriting the narrative if the first version got messy. She forgot I believed in paper. By noon, her lawyer sent a reply. We would like to request time to review the attached documents more thoroughly. No further demands, no scheduling proposal, just stall tactics dressed up in legalese. I didn't respond. Kenneth didn't either. There was nothing left to clarify. Her silence that day was the loudest I'd heard since leaving. For a woman who loved to win, she'd stepped into the ring without even checking the rules. I didn't need to swing. She'd already knocked herself out the moment she chose the desk over the dinner table. All I did was read the fine print and remember where I filed the copy. She must have been desperate to message Tom. He wasn't just a friend, we'd all gone to college together. The three of us had road tripped through Maine in the same rusty Civic, played cards against humanity at each other's weddings. He gave a toast at ours. She used to call him her brother from another mother. But Tom didn't flinch. Her message had that frantic tone, the kind where words fall over each other like they're racing a clock. Hey, can we talk? I know this looks bad. I didn't expect it to go this way. Tom's reply was short, brutally clean. You kissed your boss on his desk. You think we didn't see that coming? No sympathy, no space to twist it into something less. Just the truth, delivered like a door slammed shut. She didn't write back. By the time the winter gala arrived, the silence between us had evolved into something more permanent. I wasn't planning to go, too many questions, too many eyes, but then one of the senior partners personally asked if I'd attend, said it wouldn't be the same without me. So I went, alone. No tux rental, no +1. Just a tailored black suit, clean shave, and the quiet calm of someone with nothing left to explain. When I stepped through the ballroom doors, conversations didn't stop, but they paused just long enough for people to register I was there, and she wasn't. 3 partners approached before I even made it to the bar. One of them, a man who used to make snide jokes about men who let their wives work late, shook my hand and said with something almost like respect, "Heard how you handled it, like a surgeon, cold, exact." Another chimed in, "Some people broadcast their wounds. You didn't. That's rare." I didn't smile, just nodded. Across the room, near the silent auction table, she appeared, hair done, makeup flawless, wearing the emerald green dress she once told me made her feel invincible. She scanned the crowd like she still owned it, but the recognition didn't come. The whispers weren't admiration anymore. They were questions. She spotted me, started moving in my direction, a few heads turned, watching, waiting for the scene, the apology, the messy plea, but she only made it halfway. A man in a black suit, firm security, not one of ours, stepped forward with a subtle gesture, not aggressive, just final. She tried to say something, but he shook his head and leaned in close. She stepped back, eyes flicking toward me just once, hoping I'd intervene. I didn't. I turned back toward the bar, accepted the bourbon someone handed me, and listened as a client asked if I was taking on new advisory roles. I told him I might be. Behind me, I felt the absence of her presence like a breeze leaving a room. Whatever story she had walked in ready to tell, it didn't matter. The audience was already gone. The room wasn't hers anymore. She didn't just lose a husband. She lost her place in the network, in the narrative, in the spaces where reputation, not apology, decides your access. And once that's gone, you don't get a second entrance. At 2:11 a.m., her phone lit up with a single message. Next time you text working late, make sure the cameras are off. No signature, no emojis, no trace of where it came from. Just black text in a gray bubble on a white screen. So simple it could have been a calendar reminder, but it landed like a bullet. She was in bed when she read it, alone. No ring, no husband beside her, just the soft blue light of her screen casting long shadows across the pillow. Her first instinct was denial, then panic, then the icy wave of realization. Someone had seen it, more than me, more than her. She sat up straight, heart slamming, checked the number. Nothing. No caller ID. Unknown. Message expired. She tapped the message. It wouldn't open. She tried to reply. Message failed. She opened her camera roll like the truth might be there. But there were no photos from that night. No proof she could delete. Nothing to erase. Because the footage wasn't hers. It wasn't on her phone. It was archived. Pulled directly from the building's internal surveillance feed. Time-stamped, chain of custody documented, all accessed legally, all admissible. And I hadn't sent the text. That was the part that truly broke her. Not just that someone had the footage, but that I hadn't needed to use it. That I had no intention of dragging it into the public square. No desire to humiliate her because she was already doing it herself. That night kept echoing, not because it was loud, but because it was preserved, every second of it. From the moment I stepped into the reception area to when I stood frozen at the office door, to the exact frame where her hand curled into his collar and her lips touched his. A 6-second clip, archived. time-stamped. For her, it was just a mistake. For the system, it was a log entry. And for me, it was a trigger, silent and irreversible. I never threatened her with it, never warned her. I didn't need to. Her own choices carried the weight. Her own patterns undid her story. She told everyone it was complicated, that the marriage had been distant, that she had felt unseen. But that message at 2:11 a.m., it stripped the paint off her narrative. There were witnesses, even in silence, even in shadows, even when she thought no one would know, because the lie she told with her body was recorded by a building she didn't own. And when truth arrives quietly without context or confrontation, it doesn't just bruise, it dismantles. By sunrise, she had deleted every photo of us still on her page, changed her relationship status, locked down her comments, but nothing touched the message. It just sat there in her phone's memory. A single sentence. Burned in, permanent, unreadable, but never forgotten. The invitation came embossed, thick ivory cardstock, no frills, just weight. Weight that said you were being watched, measured, considered worthy. The kind of dinner where names weren't just printed, they were placed, handpicked. I knew the venue before I opened it. The Aubergine Club, old money spot, private cellar, no walk-ins, no second chances. My nameplate read, Morgan James, founder Eastwell Group. I arrived early, didn't want to make an entrance, just wanted a moment to breathe. The room smelled like leather-bound books and wine older than most resumes. Everyone in suits, no one explaining who they were. Because in that room, if they didn't already know you, you weren't supposed to be there. I was seated between two VPs from opposing firms, rivals in public, laughing like cousins tonight. One leaned over and nodded toward the table across from us. Heard about the whole thing with that marketing director from Halburn. A pause, a smirk. Wasn't that your ex? I sipped my drink, set it down. Boundaries matter, I said quietly. Some people learn that too late. No one asked more. The conversation moved on to zoning permits, offshore structuring, an 88 Mellar project in Charleston. That's the thing about circles like this. They don't slow down. They don't wait for drama to resolve. If you can't hold your place, it disappears. So does your name. She tried to show up. I found out later from someone on the event committee, said her assistant had emailed twice trying to update the RSVP, then again under her maiden name, then with the boss's name attached. Didn't matter. The list had been sealed 10 days earlier. Platinum tier only. Every name double-checked. Hers, rejected, not flagged, not blacklisted, just not included. She showed up anyway, stood outside for almost 30 minutes according to the security report. Long coat, flawless makeup, clutch in hand, like maybe someone would recognize her, like maybe a name from the past could buy a seat in the present. But no one came to get her. Not one person on the inside even knew she was out there. The glass walls of the dining room looked out onto the entry courtyard, and I remember mid-conversation catching the shape of someone standing still in the shadows just beyond the flame-lit hedges, not moving, just watching. I never turned to look, because she was no longer a threat. She was a footnote. The new world didn't need her name to open doors anymore, and I no longer needed her approval to be let in. The host tapped her glass gently, and the room quieted. I felt the soft weight of 100 eyes turning toward me as she rose and said, "We'd like to invite Morgan James to offer our closing remarks tonight. Thank you for reminding us what resilience looks like." I stood slowly, adjusted the cuff of my sleeve, and stepped behind the microphone. The wine had settled into a comfortable warmth in my chest, but my voice was steady, no notes, no nerves, just clarity. "Thank you," I said, scanning the room. Faces I knew, some who had watched me build from scratch, others who had once smiled politely at me and looked past. None of that mattered now. "I've learned," I said, "that betrayal doesn't always announce itself with fireworks. Sometimes it shows up as a silence in your inbox. Other times, on someone's desk." A ripple of polite laughter moved through the room. But wherever it shows up, it tells you the truth you've been avoiding. It doesn't lie. It just waits. And then it offers you a choice. Cling to the version of your life you thought you had, or build the one you were always meant to. Someone in the back raised a glass. Someone else murmured, "Amen." I continued, "Pain gets attention. But boundaries? Boundaries earn respect. and I'd take respect over pity any day. Another soft wave of applause. I stepped back from the mic, nodding slightly to the host. Then a reporter near the front, young, eager, still romantic about tragedy, stood and asked the question like she thought she was being brave. "Do you have any regrets, Mr. James?" The room hushed again. I looked her right in the eye, held the silence, and then said calmly, with a half smile that didn't quite reach my eyes, "Only that I didn't order dessert that night." Laughter followed, real this time. Not polite, the kind that releases tension, that gives everyone permission to stop wondering if I was broken. I wasn't. I returned to my table. The VPs shook my hand again. Someone clapped me on the back. Glasses were raised. Across the city, maybe she was still telling people it was complicated, that timing was bad, that emotions got messy. Maybe she thought she still had a say in how the story would be remembered, but I'd already spoken. And when the mic is in your hand, you don't need to scream to own the room. You just need to speak truth so plainly that fiction has nowhere left to hide. It was late afternoon. Denver lights stretched long across the hotel's glass awning, casting gold over the concrete. I just finished a client session, boardroom strategy, equity positioning, nothing emotional, and stepped outside to wait for my car. The doorman nodded, familiar now. The air had the soft bite of spring pretending to be winter's friend. That's when I saw her, standing just off the curb, near the planter with the white stone tulips. Hair pulled back, blazer too crisp, like she'd rehearsed this in the mirror more than once, and she didn't smile, didn't even try, just took one hesitant step forward and said, in the voice I hadn't heard in months, "Can we talk?" I didn't flinch, didn't move toward her, just met her eyes. "Talk?" I said calmly. "You texted working late. I saw the truth." Her throat moved when she swallowed. Small reflex.
One she used to have when she was lying. "I made a mistake," she whispered. "A line meant to lower the tension, shrink the distance, invite repair. But it didn't land, because it wasn't a mistake. I took a step back, not out of fear, but finality."
Enough to let the space between us breathe the truth neither of us had dared say out loud. "No," I said, you made a choice. I just locked the door after you walked out." She blinked, once, then again, like she hadn't expected it to be that clean. And maybe she hadn't. Maybe she expected layers, anger, rehashing, a fight she could turn into reconciliation, but there was none of that left. Just the sound of traffic humming behind us, the doorman clearing his throat, a faint chime from inside the lobby as another elevator opened, then closed. She didn't move. Neither did I. For a long moment we stood like that. Two people who once built a life inside four walls, now reduced to strangers on opposite sides of a revolving door. Then my car pulled up. Quiet. Efficient. Right on time. I gave the driver a nod, stepped toward the door, and opened it. She reached out, not enough to touch me, just enough to suggest she still thought her voice had weight. "Morgan?" I didn't answer, didn't pause, didn't turn around. I simply got in, closed the door, and watched her fade in the side mirror as we pulled away. Some people believe closure comes from conversation, but the truth is, it comes from locking the right door and knowing never to open it again.